Today we're going to go through a basic guide for what aero devices you should use where and what is a good development path for your car. I'm also going to cover off making sure that what you're doing is fit for purpose, although this video is only going to cover the very basics. This video is in response to a Patreon request. Sorry it took so long, but I finally got around to it. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, I've put a link in the description. So we have to first split off into three categories: street, show, and race. Now for show it doesn't really matter what you do, so just buy what you feel like. For street, it's a different story. A lot of people talk about their wings doing a lot for street use are generally just victims of the placebo effect, unless your street use involves driving at 200 km an hour plus, but I don't really consider high-speed autobahn or breaking the law street use. Go and check out my video on do car wings actually work for more info on that. There are minor exceptions to this rule, like everyone is familiar with the Audi TT, where its rear end design caused excessive lift, so they had to rectify it with a rear spoiler which basically tripped up the flow around a terribly designed rear end, and it got back to a reasonable normal car. Try to remember that all the incidents with it were at very high speed, and Audi also identified suspension and stability control system issues. If you're driving at 110 km an hour on a straight line down a highway, you don't really need to worry about aero issues because a road car does not develop significant lift or downforce at these speeds. The stability of your car in crosswind will actually start to become more of a factor due to the nature of highway driving, mainly due to the fact that it puts forces on your steering, making the car feel unstable even when it really isn't because you've got plenty of grip threshold remaining. And obviously there are more extreme cases like commercial vehicles where extreme crosswinds can cause severe problems, but we're talking about cars and aero mods here. As such, you can see there are two primary areas for aero development on road cars: drag and noise. This is where manufacturers spend pretty much all their time optimizing stuff in the wind tunnel, trying to get the best economy within reasonable styling and manufacturing parameters, and trying to minimize noise from vortex jetting around items such as side mirrors and other sharp junctions. You can't really do much about the noise on your sort of homebrew level, so you're basically stuck with making the drag better. There's a lot of eco-warrior guys that try a lot of stuff from this and generally have netted great economy results through streamlining. Adding rear wings to your car will generally add drag and make your street economy worse. Generally speaking, bigger wings equals more drag as well, with more angle of attack equaling even more drag. Adding large prominent spoilers also means more drag. Flatter spoilers can result in cleaner separation, meaning less drag. This is why you now see them on so many modern hatchbacks and SUVs, and why they also exist on drag cars. Canards and big front splitters will generally add drag, so not useful in this case. Smoothing off everything you can will reduce drag. Moving on to race, we have three main categories. Low speed is basically racetracks with average speed at or below 100 km an hour, where you were never limited by your top speed or have significantly more power to weight than drag. Things like low speed road courses, oval sprint races, rally or autocross. Medium speed is tracks where you will spend some of your time approaching your top speed, and as such become drag limited, leading to the need for a balance between drag and downforce. High speed is primarily straight line racing where you're trying to go as fast as physically possible, getting close to your top speed. Now the confusing thing for most people to understand is that the lower speed you race at, the more aero you actually need for it to be effective. This is because the drag penalty doesn't particularly matter as you always have enough power to push it. This is why things such as Formula SAE cars and high-end autocross cars have ridiculous aero kits. If you're only going to go for a conservative aero kit at low speed, it becomes a question of why bother. If you aren't adding a whole lot of downforce, but you had to add the weight, complexity, and cost of an ineffective aero system, you're wasting your time. Your money could be better spent elsewhere on improving mechanical grip, and keep in mind that weight, particularly high up in the car, compromises mechanical grip, so aero is a trade-off. Moral of the story, at low speed, for best results, either go crazy with aero or strip everything you can off the car. Medium speed becomes much more of a trade-off between drag and downforce, with this trade-off determined largely by your power level. This is why time attack cars often run what you would consider low-speed aero on medium-speed tracks, as they have a heap of power to push it. It's a tricky balance that needs to get worked out on a car-by-car basis though, as taking corners faster gets you onto the straight faster, but your top speed overall is lower, so you have to work out whether that actually makes your overall lap time faster. For your average circuit car, you want to start off with a decent front splitter and rear wing, but still fairly small in the front splitter. Balance is always important, and if you add a front aero, you need to add rear aero and vice versa. Typically, we aim for the center of pressure about 3 to 5% rearwards of the center of gravity, and most people are more comfortable with high speed understeer. So from that point of view, I recommend you start with a basic rear wing or spoiler if you can only pick either that or a splitter, then step up to a small front splitter with front diffusers. The real winner at medium speed is the smooth underbody, as it both reduces drag and improves downforce. If you can't afford CFD design, just fit a flat floor with about 10 to 20 millimeters rake from front to rear axle and a 7 to 12 degree diffuser. If you can afford CFD or rolling road wind tunnel, go for a fully sculpted floor. These options are obviously a lot more effort than just bolting a wing and splitter on, and as such are for the more serious guys out there. As your power levels rise, you can go up to a dual element rear wing and a more aggressive front splitter with a longer extension out the front. Canards are becoming less and less relevant these days with modern time attack splitters. However, if you're running a smaller splitter or you're desperate for front end downforce, they are still an option. Just make sure you're running them at enough angle to be effective and to generate some vortices running down the side of the car. And don't box them in, make sure the air can flow around them. If you go higher end in modifications you're planning and looking for extra tenths, you can start looking at body panel smoothing, gap closing, etc. Big gains can be had from sealing off the engine bay and rearranging the cooling to come out the top. You just need to be careful of where you vent out to make sure that you're coming out in a low pressure region on the bonnet, not a high pressure region. Finally, at the highest end, you can hire a professional to completely redo your bodywork for maximum aero performance. For high-speed applications, downforce is a minimal concern, and reducing drag is key. I say minimal and not zero for downforce, because you'll still want some downforce to assist with car stability. Too much downforce and you may cause the car to have excessive rolling resistance, as well as increase the pressure drag from the aerodynamic devices. Too little downforce and you risk the car feeling unpleasantly loose at high speed, or potentially flipping or flying away. Downforce balancing and center of pressure is of critical importance here. Ideally, you should be able to get all the downforce you need without a rear wing or massive splitter, and this will help reduce the drag. Canards on a speed record car would not be a good idea, for example. I probably should briefly mention drag car wings while we're here. With sufficient power, there is a middle speed range where aero is effective and you are still traction limited, so you can see that you would want wing-produced downforce here. Things like top fuel drag cars also gain significant downforce from angling their exhaust upwards as well, as this produces a significant thrust downwards upon the tyres. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this beginner's guide to aerodynamic modifications for your car. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more, hit that like button, and leave a comment below on what you'd want to see from me next. Hopefully, I'll see you next time.